All right, so Eric Selander says, we Swedes love gnomes and our history is full of them. In an older conversation with Father Andrew, you spoke about elves and gnomes and how they are connected to the unseen and the secret. You made a likeness between the secret space and a romantic tension in a workplace that will keep its magic if it's not acted upon, but disappear if it comes to light. Could you elaborate on the symbolism and how I should understand and interact with this secret space, place? Things that are not fully revealed have a kind of fuel to them. They have a kind of power that can be directed towards other things. That's maybe the best way to understand it. And so you have to be very attentive. And that is true, by the way, in all kinds of ways. It's true in all kinds of ways. So it's also true for negative stuff in you. You have to be always careful of to notice the work that is happening inside you. I'll give you an example of a negative part of that, which is everybody diagnosing all their little psychological illnesses. That is a very dangerous thing to do, because you're basically giving it, you're pointing to it, you're giving it attention, you're giving it more power, more reality when you identify these things that are happening inside you. And so it's like, I have tendencies inside me pulling me this and that, but then I say, oh, you know what? I'm OCD. And it's like, oh, you're OCD, are you? Well, watch, because now you will be OCD, because now the monster has been revealed, like it's been put out into the open, and now it has an identity and it has a clear place. And so you have to be very careful not to expose these things. And so it's true both in the positive and in the negative, that you have to be careful about these movements in you, or these things, or these thoughts, or these things that are happening inside you. And you have to be even careful about other people doing that for you, because what you'll find too is that, especially if you're in relationships, you'll find that is that the other person is trying to name you. And that can be a very dangerous thing if you're not careful, because that the other person will say things like, you're doing this because you are this. You're acting this way because you're a liar. You're acting this way because you're obsessed with this, or you're, and so it's like, you have to be very, very cautious about that, because although it's like I said, although it's unformed, so there's some aspect of it which is moving in that direction. Once you name it, once you point to it, then you become that. It's very dangerous. And so you have to be careful also to protect yourself from other people naming you. By the way, that's what a curse is, by the way. It's like, you want to understand magic. That's how magic works. Magic works like that. Some aspects of magic, which is the capacity to take some hook in you, something that is there. That's how trolling works. That's how trolls function. That's how a lot of the online magic works, is that the troll will find in you some subtle aspect which is kind of true, which is a movement in you, some doubt you have about yourself, some weakness you have, some temptation you have, and the troll will pull it out and then show it back to you and say, this is what you are. And then all of a sudden it's like, you see that it's hooking onto something real, and then if you're not careful, it'll crush you, right? And so you have to be very attentive to this. So like a good example, but sometimes you do have to call the demon out. Like sometimes you do. Like if something becomes too strong in you, then you have to do it. That's why we go to confession, for example. Like at some point, like if the thoughts and the feelings and the tendencies boil up into action, and then you're acting in a certain way, especially if it's in a way that becomes repetitive, then at some point it's probably a good idea to call it out, and then to excise it, although it's a difficult thing and it's a dangerous thing to do that, which is why confession is helpful, because you're not just doing it on yourself. You have someone who is representing a higher power that is helping you kind of deal with that. A really good example of this, one of the best examples of this is AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. So Alcoholics Anonymous deal with people, because like, what is an alcoholic, right? It's like, is an alcoholic someone that drinks every day and falls down drunk? Is an alcoholic someone that drinks every day? Is an alcoholic someone that drinks every week but couldn't stop himself? So every weekend he drinks, but then he couldn't not do it. Is an alcoholic someone who thinks about alcohol when he's not drinking? Like, what's an alcoholic? Like, it's like there's this massive like range of what an alcoholic is. And ultimately what it ends up being is an alcoholic is someone who identifies as an alcoholic. That's what an alcoholic is. And so, but they do it because they see a pattern in themselves that is destructive to them. And so whatever level that destruction is real, it's hard to quantify it. But at some point, someone realizes that this behavior is destructive to me, and therefore I'm going to call it out. And so they go to AA and they say, my name is Jonathan, my name is so-and-so, and I am an alcoholic. And what they've done is they made that public. And so now they have to deal with it. Now they really have to deal with it. Now they have to stop drinking. And stopping drinking is going to help them, right? Because the very fact that they identified this as something real in them means that it was. And so, it's like now you have to stop drinking, but you're going to be an alcoholic for the rest of your life, buddy. You will always be an alcoholic. And that's the weird thing about AA, is that it's like, on the one hand, it helps people out of alcoholism. But on the other hand, the very system of AA makes you an alcoholic forever. And so you have to spend the rest of your life saying, I am an alcoholic, even though I don't drink, even though I haven't had a drink in 20 years, even though I haven't touched a drop of liquor, in the last generation, I'm still an alcoholic. So it's like, that's the kind of thing that we're talking about here. The opportunity and the danger of naming something.